Sorry about that. We will try again and welcome again to episode 82 of Talking to Artists. I'm sorry that I don't know what happened there. I lost the connection. That sometimes happens when I'm doing this from the cottage, so I apologize for that. So for the people that were on here before, you're going to have to listen to my blurb all over again so that when I record this, then it will make sense. But I am looking forward to talking to Jodi Wheeler of Blue Crow Gallery. And before that, did want to talk to everybody about the Pie Art Squared show. So the Pie Art Squared show is basically it's like a square foot show, except everything is circled. Hence pie art comes to the circle. And we've got 75 artists this year who are participating, who are producing really cool, neat pieces on their tondos. Everything from photography to glass, believe it or not, lots of painting, lots of multimedia. So really, really looking forward to seeing what everybody comes up with. That event runs online from March 11th to the 20th. And of course, that encompasses Pie Art Square Day, which is March the 14th. 3.14. The opening will actually be on Saturday, the 12th of March. We are hoping to have it live. So it will be running live in conjunction with the online piece of it. So anyway, try to think of places where you can put super cool round art. So it looks like Jodi might have joined us now. So I will ring Jodi, talking to her about how she manages so much stuff that she has on the go all the time. Hello.
Hi. I'm
How are
sorry.
you?
It didn't pop up at the top of my screen. I was waiting, sitting here patiently.
I'm sorry. Well, I screwed up. I screwed up anyway because I was like babbling on, and I don't know what happened. I hit the wrong button. I lost the link. I'm like, oh, whatever.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, good. I was just talking about my Pie Art Squared show that I'm doing, and in part because of the success that you guys do with your and Julia Beanster does with the square foot shows. But I can't compete with you, so I thought, well, hey, I'll try and do something different. So we'll do some circles. So
Yeah, I know it's an
I
awesome
think it's
show.
going to be fun. I think it's going to be really exciting. We have 75 artists, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh,
So,
that's a good
but
show.
it's not about me. This is about you. So I definitely give a bit of an introduction about how you are obviously a practicing artist as well as run Blue Crow Gallery. I was very interested to learn that you are an art dealer in Canada and Australia on your path and your journey. So I would just love to hear how you got from being an artist to where you are now. And of
Oh,
course, then we'll address some of the tips people always want to know on how to get into a gallery and how to run your own gallery. And do
all
you
right.
want to?
That is a lot of information. Let's try.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I graduated back in like 99 99 from York, their fine arts program, which I loved. And then while I was in school, I was also working in galleries while I was there. So there was several galleries on our campus, and I just needed part-time jobs. So I worked there because I also lived on campus. So it was easy to like kind of fit in with my schedule, and I didn't have to like go downtown to try to fit a job in while I was fitting in all my studies. So I did that, and then
Right.
of course, had the idea I was gonna, graduate and just paint and like live my best life. And then I was like, oh God, like I kind of need a job. And then when I was
It's
graduating,
expensive to live your own life.
I know. And my parents were super supportive, but they were both need to make money. I'm like, of course. Like I've got this, right? And I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And so I moved to Australia because it was on the other side of the planet. And I thought, wow, that's really far away and no one can watch me. And I'll figure it out there. So,
Well, that's really quite the escapism there.
yeah, I was
That's going to go to
like,
Europe, a different
yeah,
town.
you're starting to graduate and people are like, so what are you going to do with that art degree of yours? And I was like, I'm going to paint. I'm going to do things. I'm going to be amazing. So anyways, I moved to Australia and I got there and of course had no job plans. And, everybody's idea was you should waitress and make money. That's what they kind of set you up to do when you got there. And I was like, oh no, there's like no plate serving happening. Like I had the fear of like tripping and throwing my platters. So I was like, that's not happening.
Yeah,
So I got
done
there,
that.
basically like handed out my resume to like every gallery and museum in the city. And I got a job in a gallery managing a gallery in Sydney and in Melbourne. And I worked part-time for the Museum of Contemporary Art, which was an amazing experience as well. So I had like the
Wow.
really large scale, yeah, it was really cool. The MoCA was a year later, and then I started working in galleries here in Toronto, and I've just kind of always done that. And around 2005 realized that that's all I was doing, and I really wasn't making much work except for like almost like a hobby on the side. And so kind of launched myself full time into a painting career and started getting galleries, exhibiting and doing shows and all of the, regular full-time artist life, and was doing,
Hmm.
the one of a kind. And I needed like a side hobby because, like all artists, I was needing something to keep me creatively motivated, because painting enough, wasn't enough for me. So I started doing pottery as well. And so then I
Oh,
had
nice.
a full collection of pottery that I was exhibiting and selling at the one of a kind. And it was fun. I loved it. And yeah, anyways, and then I started working again at a gallery part-time to help them out. And then I only stayed part-time while I painted, and then kept thinking, someday maybe I'll own my own gallery. And so, yeah, I
So
just,
how long was that how long was that sort of in your mind? Like
so
that these things were going to lead to potentially having your own gallery?
I think like years ago, like after school, like it was kind of like when I first started the whole gallery thing. I think you start fantasizing about, if I had my own space, what would I do there, right? And so I
Yeah.
think that I had worked in so many different kinds of galleries, like, over the years had done like, you worked for Sandra Ainsley, which was an amazing experience, and she owns like one of the top glass sculpture galleries in Canada. And so worked that. It was
Oh,
great. We had
beautiful,
like
beautiful gallery.
yeah, and I worked for Stephen de Leon White at one point, and we opened like one of the first West End like kind of cool galleries in that strip where the Gladstone is, and that was also a crazy
Hmm.
experience. I worked with amazing artists like Carl Beam, and it was just awesome. And so I've had like this real big scale of what I liked doing, and I did a lot of curation work with different charity stuff as well. So I got to know so many artists over the years, and I love working with them. And I feel like because I have that painting side too of my own, that I kind of got them as well. Like I wasn't just on the business side of it. And,
Right.
I could connect in a very relatable way with my artists and stuff. And I think that I still try really hard to do that, even though my business side is like, so where's that painting that I've asked for 3 times? Like, I get it.
But now you know why you have to ask 3 times.
Yeah, yeah, but I get both sides, right? And I do encourage my artists to be, as freely creating as possible, but also hone in on their like get it together side, right? So, it's a
Yeah.
hard balance, and I found that even as a painter, I really struggled trying not to just think market wise and let myself freely create. I always kind of like turned and saw a bit of like what was marketable, what was going to work, what was going to sell for me. And, there was always a bit of that. And I wish part of me was a bit of a, more free bird creator. Like, I remember working in a studio with Joya Paul. We had a studio together in the Distillery District. We opened Second Door Studio. And I watched Joya paint, and she's like, wow, you sketch your ideas first? And I was like, yeah, like write it all down. Like, what? And she was like, oh, I just kind of like paint, just kind of like do this. And I was always like in awe. I was like, yeah, Joy, just like, she's like, I think I'm going to add a tree. I'm going to put a bird. And I used to call her like my little Bob Ross, right? And I was like, she's like, it's not working. What do I need? And she goes, maybe some birds, right? Like she was like, so carefree. And I was like, oh, I had to be more like Joya. Right? I was like, it was inspiring. I was like, wow. And I think I learned a lot being around her to like take myself a little less serious and stuff. And I totally love artists that do freely create, like somebody like behind me, like Lisa Stead,
Lisa,
or
yeah.
yourself, right? And I'm like, wow, look at you just making, right? like
It's interesting though, because I think no matter how you create, you know, you always it's so valuable. It's one of the things I've really missed about actually working in the studio at Art Alchemy,
Yeah.
because you know Lisa and I had the studio for a long time, and it's just learning from how other people paint and their approach is really different. And it's really interesting because for me, being an abstract painter, I always feel like if I draw anything or plan it too carefully, it's kind of cheating. Like, which is so stupid. Like, it's completely irrational, right? But it's kind of, I feel like, no, it has to be like free from the soul, you know. And it's like sometimes that's kind of a pain in the ass not to know where you're going.
Yeah. Well, I had a photography background from school, and I was doing photography and my painting separately for a long time till I found a way to kind of combine the two. And so I was doing photo transfer work. So I
Yeah,
felt like in a lot of ways, like, because once I combined the two, I could see them like that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure like you see your palette in a way. You're like, oh, this blue could be this, right? Like, I imagine that you kind of like
yeah,
sense of your colors and your design. And for me, like, I'd go out and I'd be out there with my camera. And when I was photographing like the streetcar coming down the street or something, I wasn't just doing the photo. Like, I saw the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, I could
yeah,
see it in my mind. Like, I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be like this, right? And so I felt like in a way those shots, which were kind of lucky in most cases, like, you could stand there forever and hope to get a great streetcar shot, plan it, like stand there forever, and then you have some cyclist, right? You know, or some woman walking her
yeah,
out of her car, and you're like, oh, so much for that shot. And so I'd stand there
yeah,
forever hoping to get these amazing shots, and sometimes they were so serendipitous. You'd have this like bicycle just kind of like perfectly aligned. You're like, yes, you know, and then you just saw it, like you had the shot, and the shot became the bigger picture. For me, that's how my work, you know, often laid out. So
yeah,
then, yeah, after years and years of making it, thought, you know, I was so stuck. And I think a lot of artists at points, especially when you're a commercial artist, you're making a lot of work and you're selling a lot of work, and you get in with galleries. And I think our galleries have this sense of like, where's the next piece, like the ones I want, you know? And
yeah,
we have work on my walls, and I know what I'm expecting from, say, Lisa, or, you know, Laura Dick, or, you know, any of my artists. If I said Kate Taylor,
yeah.
I imagine I know what I'm getting from you, you know, like,
Hmm.
and that being said, as an artist, there's this weird moment where you're like, what if I don't want to paint that right now? And I want to do this
Yeah,
other thing. And so there was this moment with me where I just couldn't, like, I was like stuck. And I just, it was a few years ago, and I was feeling slightly resentful. I was struggling juggling the gallery and my work, and being a mom. Like, I'm still, like, he's only 11, and I felt like I just couldn't do it all. I was like super overwhelmed trying to.
sorry, Jodi. We actually lost your feed just for a little bit. So you were saying you were
Oh no!
juggling the gallery and your work, and I just want to hear what you had to say
Oh,
because I think it was important.
I look fabulous to me. I had no clue. I cut out. Sorry.
Well, you
Sorry.
do look fabulous, but we couldn't hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. Yes, it felt like it was really difficult to juggle the gallery and being a mom and being a painter. And my galleries were asking me for work, and, you know, I wanted to be able to get it to them. But I felt like I was in this place of production. Like, I was just making the work they were asking for. It wasn't exciting for me anymore to make it. I was just like making the other product, right? Like, it stopped
Hmm.
losing its feeling for me. I wasn't, and because I was running the gallery, I often felt like if I was painting, I was not being productive as a business owner. And if I wasn't
Right.
doing my job for all of my artists in the room, then I was failing them too. So it was like just all self-applied pressure, like pressure. I don't think anybody approached
It
me
is a lot
like,
of responsibility
no,
though, because artists have to choose who they're going to partner with, right? And
yeah,
so if they're partnering with you as a gallery, then they want to know that you're working on their behalf. So I can understand
yeah.
that stress.
Yeah, and I know there's other gallery owners that are also painters, and they said they found a life balance with it. And I'm still a really new young gallery, and I just, you know, over the last few years have a really stable staff that, you know, I can count on and leave and not worry about being here full time if I have to go do something, or I
Hmm.
be with my family. And probably now, if I return to my studio to paint, like, I probably could find a life balance with that again. Um, but yeah, I just didn't know how to leave one of those things. Obviously, I'm not gonna stop being a mom, and I wasn't about to fold the business so I could go paint. So I just
Yeah.
decided I couldn't do it all, and I ran to a wonderful other artist at US. She was like, and I was like, okay. And what about all the work that's still in the gallery? She goes, take it all back, take everything back, and and clear it. And I was like, okay. And I said, but if it's in the room, I feel like I'm wasting time creating a new project, like making something else. I felt like I needed to still make this work. And she's like, sell it all, be done, keep what you want, move along. And I was like,
yeah.
Move along. I'm gonna move along. And so I did, and I
And sorry, again, you cut out a little bit, so I wonder. So who made that recommendation to you?
Her name's Yua. She's a painter. I showed with her at Trias Gallery for years. And I was walking through the artist project. And I think there's moments in our life when we run into the person that we just need, and you don't even know you need them in that moment, and they say the right thing to you. And I was walking through the artist project. I was in the middle of an aisle, and I had just cried with Zoe Zorick because she gave me this special little post-it about myself, and my soul like cracked open. And then half a second later, I ran into Yua, and she was like, she's like, how are things going? Are you managing it all? And she also had opened a building in the city that was, she was juggling everything. And I told her how I was feeling, and she was just like, you need to just clear it out and move along and be done with it and give yourself the time out. And I was like, I need a timeout. I need to give myself the timeout. And so I did. I came back, I went home and I cried and I felt sorry for myself. And then I came in the next day and I opened up a whole studio clearance of my work and cleared it all out and called my galleries and cried and asked for my stuff back. And, I felt like I couldn't sell it all at a reduced rate here. Well, they were selling it at full price.
Right. And to have it in the galleries.
To take it all back.
Yeah.
So,
but I think, but the cool thing about that is that even though you're, sorry, I was gonna say, the cool thing about that is even though you're kind of stepping back and you're pulling out for a bit, the reality is that all that creativity is still inside you. So it's not like you're losing it, right? You're just putting it on hold for a bit.
I think that giving myself the pause was what I needed, opposed to saying that I'm done. Right? Because I don't feel like I'm done. I just think I couldn't do it all at the moment. And I wanted to create new stuff. I had ideas of other work that I wanted to do that I didn't feel that while I was surrounded by all the other stuff, I could make properly. So, and I wanted to play with other mediums and stuff that I hadn't had time to explore. And I thought if I just didn't have the obligation of making the other collection anymore, then maybe I had time to play a little bit again and figure that out. And I don't know that I'm comfortable doing it in a studio space that was here in the gallery. So I closed my studio in the gallery and I have my studio space back at home where I felt like I could do things and not be like, just feel vulnerable by myself. And yeah. And I think, you've got an open studio concept that you've been a part of as well. And sometimes that's amazing. And other times, you just want to be by yourself and do your own thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, we have a policy at Art Alchemy, actually, that's part of the guidelines that you're really not allowed to go and comment on other people's work unless you're invited to. And it's exactly that. Sometimes you're in a zone and someone else does something and it kind of throws you off where you were going with it. So it's kind of, which I find is great because sometimes you are unsure and exploring something new. And other times it's so great to be able to kind of go, I don't know what's happening here. I need some advice. I need some thoughts. I need some input, For
sure. I think that that's important, and I think that sometimes having somebody's insight, especially if you're feeling stuck, like, when I shared the space with Joy, we were both really comfortable with our collections and stuff, but we were also really comfortable talking to each other about our work and stuff, right? And I just think, anyways, that was a long time.
No, but I think it's an interesting story, and I think there's a couple of things that I'm sure you get asked, and I'm sure that a lot of artists kind of have that thought process too, as did I at one point. It's like maybe I can merge running a studio like Art Alchemy and having a retail space. And the more I talked to people, the more I realized it just didn't fit for my personality. And part of it is because of exactly that splitting. So I guess if you have an artist that is looking to do what you did and open a gallery, what kind of advice would you give them?
God. Well, I don't know. You should be prepared to be absolutely exhausted and also be flexible. Like it's not easy to juggle it all. And I think finding, I don't change a lot. Like I'm really set in kind of what I like to do here, like in the way I want to. And I've had people suggest I do other things and change my model, and I don't really want to. So I think it's important that,
And you own the gallery, so you can do that.
yeah, I think it's important for you to know kind of really what you want out of it, and also like it's really expensive to do. So you have to have a good model that you're actually going to make money doing it. Otherwise, you have to have a really good backup reason as to why you're doing it, or maybe you just have the acceptable money to just do it because it's fun. Like, but
which most people don't.
No, it is really expensive, and I think that knowing how to, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, knowing how to juggle that ahead of time, like maybe have a small studio that has a little retail edition and try that first before you launch into something massive. And I had a really good network already before I started the gallery, and I'm very open to meeting new people and doing stuff, but I'm not quick to say yes to everything either. And I think that again, that goes back to knowing what you want. And there's all kinds of different gallery models, so you just have to know the kind of model that you wish to have. I didn't want to just have a rotating space. Like, I like to represent and work with the artists that I'm working with. So for me,
build relationships with them, and you know them.
Yeah, and I've a lot of new artists that I didn't know before opening this building too, right? Like, and I have a lot of, for me, I really wanted the pottery and the other elements involved in it too, but I also knew things that I didn't want to include, and it wasn't that they're not awesome. I just didn't feel like dealing with it and doing it, and I think you just have to know what you really want in your space and what works for you. For me, part of my space layout is also accessibility, and that was really important to me. And again, somebody else doesn't necessarily care, about those kind of things when they're designing their space, but you have to decide what's important to you. And again, really have a pre-thought out model. I didn't really know when I opened the space exactly what I was doing, but I had a lot of the ideas ahead of time. But I think, just definitely be prepared to sacrifice a lot of your time.
And I know that your space, the way it is structured right now, the way your space is structured right now, it obviously has that really nice area where you do your openings and your awesome charcuterie boards, but also your classes and stuff. Was that always kind of part of the plan, or is that something you just kind of missed?
It's funny, years and years ago, back when I was in school, I kind of thought maybe I would be an art teacher someday. And then I remember I really wanted to teach high school art. And I had an amazing high school art teacher. If you're out there watching, guys, hi. They both are still friends of mine. Chris and Dale, and they both, were so supportive of me. And I remember when I wanted to graduate and go into teachers college to teach high school, I said, I just want to be just like you guys. And they said, how about you come teach our class for the day and see how you feel about that? And so I went back and I taught, and I liked it. It was fun, but I also realized that I didn't want to teach high school. And so I just, and I think that in my mind, if I was teaching university, it might have felt more like what I had wanted to feel. But I decided quickly that I didn't want to teach high school, but it would be fun. Room, I can either just do art, but there's that fear of what if it doesn't sell and I can't pay my rent, and it felt like a second plan, It's like I had like both plans in the works, that I could do both things, and one of them was going to make me money and pay my rent. And so when I stood in here, I had the landlord here with me, and he was like, so do you know what you want to do? I was like, not really, but I'm thinking this. And I just kind of winged it. And then I had an amazing friend who was an art teacher, and she taught at several locations. And I said, what if I could just hire you full time and you could just teach here? And she was like, for real? And so I basically matched what she was making elsewhere and paid her that here. And then she now has her own amazing art studio, and we have other amazing art teachers teaching here now and stuff. And yeah, it's fun. And I usually teach workshops, or I teach once in a while, like PA camps and stuff like that. But I can't, again, run the gallery and teach art school. So, but I love having it. I love having the kids in the space, and it's amazing energy. And, you know, and the other thing is when it's really, really quiet during the year with, you know, out planning, I still have like, 50 families that walk into the store. And so if it's quiet, they're still coming and going and inevitably need something. So they end up buying gifts or things on their way out, or they see the artwork that, you know, they are thinking about now and consider buying. So yeah, so it's worked out. It was not a perfectly planned model, but it, you know, has turned into something awesome. So.
Well, yeah, I guess that's probably part of being an entrepreneur though, right? I mean, you have a plan, but that plan is never rigid. You know, it has to be flexible. And I mean, it's that, which of course comes to the next question. Obviously, I'm sure that COVID was never part of the plan, you know, and having to move online and having to sort of close the gallery and be really innovative about being able to still keep the doors open even when you couldn't actually open the doors.
Yeah, it's been a ride. Yeah, it was not planned, and there was definitely a lot of tears that first like month or so where I was like, what am I going to do? And I am a new business. Like I'm only 5 years now. I've spent 2 of those years in COVID land. And so I was only 3 years in, and that was like, you know, the year stuff was really supposed to get rolling for me, you know, and I didn't have a massive nest egg, you know, set aside for COVID plans. Like, and so I freaked out, and anyways, so, but we made it work, you know. I feel like I just upped my Instagram game for a while there, and yeah, it also kicked me in the butt with my Instagram game, you know, like it's like I feel like I was always using Instagram, but I kind of used it as I needed to. And then when COVID happened, I was like, oh my God, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. Like, I was like, you know,
well, and I just think it'll be interesting. I think it'll be interesting too, actually, if you look back at how many artists, their careers really changed and pivoted in a good way because of COVID, because they were forced to do stuff like that. And I'm one of those as well. Like I've been thinking about doing an online store, and now at least I have some stuff online. I've been, you know, half-assed about Instagram, and I'm still kind of half-assed, but trying to do something good, right? And I think that those habits that are built because of that are only going to help us be stronger, I think, in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. And I think that those habits, for me, like posting regularly and little things like that, were so important. And now I find like people come in my gallery and they're like, oh, I follow you on Instagram. Like it's one of the first things they tell me, or I came in because I saw this on Instagram and stuff. And it's rare actually when somebody doesn't follow us and that is coming in the store. And now if they don't, it's because they're just not on Instagram at all. And you know, I think that it's definitely been a plus for us. And I think that when people, you know, have stuff kind of in front of them regularly, and then they love it, and then they still love it the next day, and then they still love it the day after that, it just keeps popping up in their feed for a little while, and then they're like, oh my God, I really got to go see that painting. And then they come in, and then they just can't resist. And then, you know, so it's worked for us. It really has. That it was definitely, there was definitely the pivot for sure. Like right now, our gallery, people think we're closed, I think because the government closed the galleries, but I'm not the AGO, so I am a retail store in like the perspective of things. So we are open, and we just have minimum capacity. And so really we're just letting like 4 people in at a time. It allows for really small, you know, grouping in the store, like 2 couples. And there's so much room here. It's easy to space out and keep your room from each other. And so people kind of get a private shopping experience, and it's nice. And at the same time, we aren't running our art school right now. And so stuff like that does, like we count on that income, right? And so when that income takes a slump and stuff, it's always a little bit of a, you know, juggle trying to handle everything again. But it, you know, the gallery is now, I don't know, a pretty good well-oiled machine. And so we do, you know, fine with the gallery as well without the art school side of it. But Yeah, but it's quiet in here without all the kids. We miss having the kids in the afternoons.
I bet, yeah. But I think you bring up a good point too in terms of how artists can also support their galleries. Like I think a lot of artists kind of think that galleries just they run and they make money and they take 50% of what the artist has, and somehow it's that the artist gets the short end of the stick on that transaction. You know, you
Yeah,
hear that with some, especially with some emerging artists that don't really understand what it takes to run a bricks and mortar gallery.
yeah,
But I think you brought up some really good points for artists to remember too, in terms of not only supporting your galleries by providing work that's consistent when you're supposed to, but also within Instagram, tag back and forth and support each other and try and get your work in front of an audience that will drive it to the gallery as well.
yeah. No, for sure. And I think it is a bit of a two-way street with, the online platform too. It can be, one of those things like we when I first opened, I didn't have anybody following me. Obviously, I was new. Nobody knew who I was, and nobody really in the land of Instagram cared. And so I thought if I had your work on my wall, for example, I'd be like, well, I'm going to tag Kate in this painting because at least people know who she is. They don't know who I am. And then they're like, oh, Kate shows here. And so for me, it worked. And I, started
Yeah.
getting some of the following through that, and the artists kind of did it back because they were tagged in it. Whereas a lot of galleries actually don't tag their artists. They just sometimes don't name them. Sometimes they'll just name a first name, or sometimes they name them,
Yeah.
but just type it out. They don't actually tag them. And so I'm sure that at some point it's worked against me, and people have followed the artist directly and maybe purchased directly from the artist as well. Most of my artists are really good about looping it back to me and asking kind of when somebody just freely connects with them in Instagram, say, cool, how have you seen my work? And then
Yeah.
it comes back to me usually that they've seen it through, one of us that way. And, I'm, pretty fair with my artists that way too. Like if somebody connects with me and, there's a piece that's in the artist studio and not connected to me at all, then I've just gone, well, we don't have that painting, but you should, let me see if I can either get it in or I'll connect you with, Kate and see where it's at. Because if it's on another gallery as well, then we just got to go the other route, right? But I think open communication with your artist is really important. And definitely like that online, platform thing. And I know for other galleries, they do things differently too. My gallery right now has a customer appreciation event on, and we are offering 15% off all the artwork in the gallery. And now I make a choice to do that, but I don't take it from the artist percentage at all. So my artists never get discounted here in the gallery ever. They still make the full percentage. So if there's a sale or anything that I ever put on in my gallery, and I don't love the word sale, but if I do a discount of some kind, it's coming out of my percentage. And that's something I've personally chosen to do. A lot of places will contact the artists and say, can we split this? And that's up to them too, right? But I think, I don't know. It's hard enough to be an artist as it is, right? So
Well,
then go from there.
I think though that a lot of that for me comes down as an artist too. It comes down to the communication, right? Like it's frustrating if you just send brand new work to a gallery and they sell it and it's a discount and you're like, it's only been alive for 2 weeks. Like it just feels like, it's one thing if it's from like 2015 and okay, let's discount it and stuff. But, but I think having that conversation back and forth is really important. And I think that obviously, the more personal relationship is, the less likely the artists or galleries are going to be to kind of go and screw the person that's on the other side of the transaction, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we don't usually, people come in and clients will say stuff like, so what's the actual price, or how flexible is this price? And I'm like, it's as flexible as the tag on the wall.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and as an artist, I get that too, because I have, there's people that are like, well, I know if you sold this to a gallery, they'd get 50%. So can I get 50%? And I'm like, so let me think, are you showing my work? Are you going to put it in front of a whole bunch of people I don't have contact to? If you can't do all that stuff the gallery does for me, then no, the price is the price.
Yeah.
Can't undercut your galleries.
No. And and somebody's, asked before, like, especially like standing in a booth, that happens to a lot of artists, and artists have asked me, like, how do I respond? Like, even when I was an artist, like in that, moment, how do you respond back to somebody who's like asking you for the 50% off, or even like 20% off? And but if you sell it in the gallery, they make 100% kind of thing, and it's a 50 split. And I've said, well, you've had to pay for your booth and your walls. And so if you do say the one of a kind show, you're looking at like thousands of dollars for your booth, and then your electrical, and then all your, you know, other stuff. So that is your gallery fee right there to cover back
Yeah.
the costs. And then you still need to make your artist fees, which is the other 50% that's supposed to pay back all your supplies and everything else. And then hopefully you make money, you know? So I
Right.
think that people don't understand that, and they don't understand the costs that go into buying, you know, 50 different golden paints, you know what I mean? Like, and they're so
It's
expensive, right?
expensive.
Like, it's so
I know,
expensive.
especially now.
Yeah, art supplies are so expensive, and people just go, oh, and they don't see it, right? And I, you know, I've often
Yeah.
said, like, you know, if I asked you this week to take a 50% pay cut, would you? Like, I know your accounting job is cushy and all, but like, would you? Like, if I just said, how about
Yeah.
this week, just 50% off? Because I'm still looking for the accountant that does 50% off, right?
Yeah.
So,
Or like the lawyer, you know, like, hey, I only want to pay you half of what your regular rate is.
is it negotiable? Yeah. No, I think that people
Yeah.
just don't understand that really. And anyhow, but yeah, I think that I think that's one way as an artist to discuss that if you're in a booth and stuff. And you know, but it's
Yeah.
hard. Like, I think there for years was the idea that if you went to an artist studio, the prices were less than they are on the walls, right? Like, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
I've had a couple artists contact me and say, hey, somebody was in your store and now they've contacted me, and just so you know. So they've flipped the sale back to me, explaining to the client that because it's on my wall, they're buying it from me.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
so in that case, again, like, somebody nowadays with phones, like, people just walk through, and while they're here, they're joining that person's Instagram, right? Like, they can just walk through and look at like Lisa Stead stuff, and they're like, Lisa Stead, ooh, I'm gonna follow her. And I'm like, great. You know, so it's nice that they're following her, but in their mind, they're also seeing what her prices are. And I have, you know, once or twice run into a situation where artists are constantly selling their prices lower. And that makes it extremely difficult for the galleries. And at that rate, it slowly stops selling. And then you're like, well, what's the point? If you're constantly undercutting your gallery too, then they're not going to want to
Mm-hmm.
walls if they can't move the work. Like, at the end of the day, the work on the walls is our money as well. So
Yeah.
if you're not selling it, it's pretty and all, but like, I'm going to have to replace it if it's not moving, right? Like, that's just,
Well, I think the other thing too is I mean, ultimately you have a contract as an artist with the gallery too. And that contract is that you don't undercut your galleries, right? And so I think that, you know, if you have somebody who's constantly doing that, I would guess it's one of those things that's kind of like I often say, people will say, well, you could just give me a deal and the gallery would never know. I'm like, yeah, I can also cheat on my marriage, but it doesn't mean it's still not cheating. You know, like, it's kind of, just because you
hard.
don't get caught doesn't mean it's not ethically the right thing to do.
Yeah. And I think it's a very two-way street, right? Like, open communication and, you know, good conversations with your artists. And, you know, yeah, if somebody's coming
Yeah.
back to you and then suddenly you need to pick up the painting from my store, and then I see it sold half a second later, it's pretty clear as to what happened there. So I think,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
if that's the case, then I think there just needs to be a better communication, right? Like, and that's all lessons learned
Yeah.
with an artist. And especially for starting art, like new artists starting out, I think people really need to just learn all of that. You know what I mean? Like, I think there are lessons learned, and they're either learned easily or the hard way, you know? And
Right.
yeah, you know, I just think,
But I think you also, because I know there's been a couple of situations where you've actually approached your artists on things like, you know, this work is approaching the look and feel of another artist. And so I think that the good thing about you is I think it sounds like you actually have those conversations with them in a clear, honest, respectful way to help them understand why things are the way they are, as opposed to, you know, the school of hard knocks where it takes you a while to figure out why things aren't working.
yeah, no, completely. And I think that, yeah, that's a whole other rabbit hole, the, you know, work looking a lot like other work. But, you know, I think that definitely open communication with your artists is super important. And I think as an artist, being comfortable talking to your gallery is really important. And for me, like, I know there's people out there that pay for art consultants and they assist them in helping their art career and stuff like that. And artists that are represented through me, I include that in part of my job with them. Like, that's just an agreed upon, like, understood thing. So if one of my artists is really struggling with where they're at with their work, then they can talk to me, and I'm happy to talk through what I think they should, kind of consider changing or doing, or what they should push more of, or if they're feeling stuck, like just talk to me and like, let's talk through all of those feelings. Cause I think, yeah, I've been there and it's not always easy. And I think feeling lack of motivation at times is genuine, especially as an artist. It's hard when you feel like stuff isn't moving. You start to open everything and question if it's something you're doing. And sometimes it has nothing to do with what you're doing at all. It just has to do with like, the ups and downs of the market and things too. Like I find every time they make an announcement or there's like news coming, everything kind of goes as everybody's home with their converter, just watching their TV. Like nothing happens for a week. I'm like, great, Ford's speaking again. Won't be selling shit this week. Like it's like
that's right. Oh, everyone's at home again, looking at their walls. I'll be selling this week.
Like quiet, and then everything gets comfortable, and then people come out again. It's like, but
yeah.
if they're home stuck, it has nothing to do with anything except for there's change, right? Or if they're asked to stay home, like people don't know what to do for like a week or so. It takes like a moment before they, really figure out, what to do next. And I think everyone just kind of hunkers down and doesn't know what to do. And yeah, I don't know. It's like the beginning of July, right? When everybody is like, I'm free, I'm going camping. And you're like, well, won't see anyone this week,
That's right, yeah.
But anyhow, I think, yeah, just definitely staying motivated and stuff, and keep on working, keep creating. And it's, yeah.
So what kind of advice would maybe you give to artists who are looking to get into galleries, your gallery or other galleries, or how should they kind of approach that?
I think it's really important to apply to galleries that are doing work that you feel like what you're doing fits with. Like if you're like a portraiture artist, it's not really what I'm doing here. So it's cool that that's what you do. It might be fantastic, but it might not be anything appropriate for what I do here. And, I just think it's important to look around at the work, like not just go, oh, I hear other people are selling here, so I'm going to go there. Like, I think try to find a gallery that carries a vibe like what you're doing so that your work does fit with that space and it's going to make sense there. And if you're selling your work for $200, then approaching a gallery that's selling things for $5,000 to $10,000, probably, it might not be a fit either. Like you just have to find the right kind of model of gallery for what you're looking at and then approach them. And every gallery has a different way that they like their applications to come through. I do not have a website application. There's, you can just email us and stuff like that. And we do it that way. And I just ask people to, send images or a link to images so I can review it. And a lot of the time, unfortunately, my response is like that I'm not taking people at the moment. And that's kind of the case. I do my big group show like we were talking about earlier. And my big group show, a lot of the time when I have all those little pieces in the gallery, sometimes like if something's really moving, like constantly selling on the wall, I might, really look at it and be like, maybe that's something I need in my room. It's going to be that, much of a draw. I didn't realize I needed that in my life. But so I've adopted a few artists that way. Like Adele Webster was one of the artists that was in our show a year ago. And I was like, yeah, I want that. Like, I just loved it personally. And then having it physically in the space, I was able to see it and see what her potential with her larger work was going to be. And it was exciting to get to incorporate her into the gallery. And actually Karen Jeffrey, the same thing. We had Karen in our group show and her little pieces, I think we sold 5 during the group show. And we were like, yeah, I think maybe we need to talk to Karen Jeffrey. And I was like, and she had asked me before, but the timing wasn't right. And sometimes that's also it. I just don't think the timing is right. Sorry. But yeah, I think sometimes when the timing, it's just timing sometimes too, right? Like if I've got, it might not look like, the gallery's packed full, but I have a rotation of new work kind of coming and going. And I already have a list of artists I'm trying to wait to incorporate into the room. And anyhow, it's, also if you're doing something just like somebody else in the room, then I don't want two pieces the same in the room. It's not what I need.
Yeah.
So if I already have an amazing floral artist, then I'm not necessarily looking for a new one at the moment. But that doesn't mean that, you know, if that artist's life changed and I needed to replace it, that I might not draw on that, you know? So it just, yeah, everything kind of ebbs and flows. And I think other galleries have like an actual physical application process that they expect, and it goes through their website. Like you might have to fill in the form and then attach images, and then that's what you get to go on. Some of them just want a web link or things like that. And so I don't expect somebody to have like a web link necessarily. For me, it's awesome if you do, if you have an Instagram or something. I just want to see, like, you okay?
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Of course, the more you try not to cough, the more you have to cough.
But yeah, I think everybody has a different approach as to how they accept artists, right? I do not respond well to a flat out cold call, like walking in here with your paintings, and with the assumption that I have absolutely nothing else to do with my time except for drop everything and look at your artwork. Like, I just don't. And I probably,
it's disrespectful.
Yeah, I would be borderline rude, and it doesn't happen often. Usually I stand with like a really plastic smile and awkwardly stare at the person until I'm like, cool. No, but thank you. And no. But so it's really awkward, like to assume that this is your day and you're just going to carry your artwork in here. Oh, I'm here and I have it all in my car. Like, that is just so not for me. It might be for somebody else who's just waiting for you to enter their life.
No.
But it's
I can tell you it's not for any gallery. It's not for anybody. Like, very few people love to be surprised by stuff like that.
I'm just like, I really don't want to be put on the spot. And I'm happy to set up an appointment. I'm happy for you to bring your work in. If you're somebody who's like, look at, I'm not in a position, I don't do any online stuff. I'm really not. And that also like, and like, even if somebody's like, I'm older, I don't do it. I'm like, really? Because there's a lot of older savvy people out there. Like, I think that might be time to.
Plus, it's not that hard just to get some stuff on a website, right? Like, it doesn't have to be brilliant. And
yeah, or even just on something like Instagram that's free and accessible and easy, right? Like, just have some kind of imagery out there, I think. But anyways, there have been people who have been like, oh, I don't do that, I'm not savvy. And I'm like, cool. And right there, I'm already like, it's difficult, you know? And when I had one person come in one time and tell me they don't do email. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Like, that was kind of my response. I was like, I'm like, I don't know what else to say. So yeah, or like approaching with like really unput together work. Like, it's like, this is my drawing stuff. And I'm like, what would you like me to do with that drawing? Like, you want me just to put it in a mold and on the floor? My present stuff or put it together is probably best as well. Like, already figure out some of those things before maybe approaching the gallery. Like, so it looks like complete. And you don't have to have framed paintings. Like, most of my artists don't frame their work. Like, all the beautiful stuff behind me here by Lisa Stead is just stretched canvas, but it looks finished. Like, all the work looks finished. I don't want to see stuff that doesn't look finished and hanging ready, like, but sorry, I thought you were going to say something.
Yeah. No. I was just laughing because I think that it's one of those things too where framing for a client also can be kind of expensive. So I think as an artist, it really behooves you to kind of finish the piece so that all they need to do is stick it on the wall,
Yeah.
Sides finished and properly signed and properly varnished or whatever you're doing with it.
Yeah, like, I fully agree. And we have clients that will sometimes be like, do you think that, we have this other piece in our home. Do you think that I could frame this? I'm like, I think you could do whatever you wish with it when you leave here. But I love the option that if they just wanted to go home and hang it up temporarily for the next year or something till they can afford the frame that they didn't budget for, then it still looks awesome on their wall. They don't have to like keep it down until it's ready to put up. You know what I mean? Like, and if you, finish your sides or make it look tidy, then I think that, or maybe you paint the whole way around and that's fine too. But I think that having a finished piece that doesn't look kind of, ratty when it's hung on the wall, then that's, finished enough. And I think today a lot of people just are comfortable hanging work on their wall unframed as well. But a lot of our clients will get shadow frames or float frames, for their pieces
Yeah.
after the fact. And we don't frame in the gallery. There's a lot of galleries that do framing. We don't personally frame here, but anyways, yeah, I think that as long as it's finished looking and stuff, it's important. And if you're, carrying paper-based products, that you've figured out how to exhibit those, they don't all necessarily need to be framed, but they at least need to be like either matted or put on some kind of, cardstock
Substrate. Yeah.
And when you're exhibiting,
basically what you're saying, that as an artist, they need to make it easy for you to actually sell their work.
Yeah.
Right? Like without a lot of other issues.
Yeah. Yeah, I think any location. I don't want to do your packaging for you when you get here. So like, that's like somebody showing up with cards, like art cards, and then being like, "Well, these are the envelopes. Here's the cards." Like, I'd be like, "Put that in a package for me and get back to me when you're done." Like, I just unless I've offered to do it, I just don't think I'm going to But anyway, stuff like that. I think as an artist starting out, you just got to tidy up those details before you're approaching somebody, so it looks easy.
Yeah.
Like when you're
professional.
Yeah. So, but anyways, does that make sense?
Oh, that's awesome. I can't believe we've run out of time.
Oh, well, there you go.
I know I got 20 seconds left on my clock. I'm just going to turn that off. But yeah, I just want to thank you so much. Why don't you just let everybody know where you're located? So you're down Gerrard, right? Blue Crow Gallery in Toronto.
1610 Gerrard Street East at Coxwell and Gerrard, and the little India Bazaar, and in the east end of Toronto. It's an awesome neighborhood. So when things are more or less closed as well, you can come and then go out for awesome lunch or dinner as well. There's so many great restaurants.
Oh, great restaurants. Yeah.
So, and hopefully we'll get back to, days of events and stuff. I know other places have started doing openings and stuff again. We have not returned to openings and stuff quite yet. So yeah, we're still just, open, come in, chat with us, buy art.
Yeah. Well, beautiful art, wonderful pottery, and some really cool and interesting jewelry and stuff too. So looking for a gift, that's where you need to go.
Yeah, for sure. It was so nice to chat with you.
It was so great to talk to you too, Jodi. Thank you so much, and good luck. And I'm looking forward to next time I'm in Toronto coming and having a visit.
For sure. Awesome. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks a lot. All right. Bye. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. That was great. Next week, I don't actually know for sure who is talking next week. So I had a bit of a change in some of the scheduling. So it will be a surprise. But I did again want to remind people about Pirate Squared in Art Alchemy. So Art Alchemy is Laird and Eglinton in Toronto. It will be online as well. And the opening will be Saturday, March the 12th. And we are very much hoping that it will be in person. So follow either Art Alchemy East on Instagram or mine, Kate Taylor Art. And you will learn all about it. Thank you so much for joining us. If you actually do know somebody who is interested in being on Talking to Artists, or if you're interested on it, then reach out to me and kind of let me know. I'm always looking to sort of hear about different people's stories and how they got to where they were. Ideally, some lessons learned or things that you can share with the artist community, with the collector community too, that kind of helps more people have more art in their homes. That's kind of the goal. So thank you very much, and we will talk to you next week. Bye.